And we're back. And of course, yesterday we had some major recruit news that dropped. Lamar Brown has committed to LSU. I actually did a breaking news video about that. Make sure to go check that out if you have not. It's already uploaded. It's gonna be under videos, and that was just some huge news that I broke down yesterday. And yeah, it's just LSU just had a lot of great news for recruiting. But then there was a second one. I didn't get a chance to cover. I was gonna hold that off until tonight's show, and that is DeAnthony Lafayette. DeAnthony Lafayette is a 6'1", 230-pound edge rusher. But he won't be playing on the defensive end. He'll be a linebacker mostly. And the reason why I say that is because he has been primarily recruited by Blake Baker. All right, and Blake Baker, of course, not only is the defensive coordinator for LSU, but he's also the linebackers coach for LSU. So it's interesting that the linebackers coach for LSU is recruiting an edge rusher. Why? That may sound interesting. Because he's going to move the linebacker, of course. DeAnthony Lafayette, 3-star recruit, the 34th best edge rusher in the country, and the 42nd best prospect from the state of Florida. Keep in mind, Florida's population is huge. So he may be 42nd but in the state of Florida, but there's a lot of people in the state of Florida. All right. But he finished his junior season last season with 73 tackles, 40 quarterback hits, and 17 and a half sacks in 11 games. So he's an absolute monster coming off the edge. We're also going to play some highlights for you too. But like I said, so on here it says 6.5, 70 tackles, 18 tackles for loss and interception. So I don't know which one to determine the actual stats. Because I got that from 24/7, and 24/7 referred to max preps, and sometimes max preps can be wrong, but 16.5, 18.5, it doesn't matter. That is a lot of sacks in 11 games, right? So he also had 18 tackles for loss and an interception. But DeAnthony Lafayette, 6'1", 230, and he looks like a linebacker, right? I mean, he's probably ninth in the nation in sacks. Is crazy. But yeah, it says so on max preps. So that's pretty crazy. But here he's you have him lined up as a defensive end with his hands in the dirt. So it'll be very interesting to see how LSU uses him, because it looks like they'll be recruiting him as a linebacker, and he had his hand in the dirt. And so it'll be really interesting to see how LSU uses him, because instincts are very important when it comes to the linebacker position, right? And one of the things that Harold Perkins has really struggled with, and I think they're very similar, but the same size, actually, when you come to think about it. Harold Perkins, about his size, maybe a little bit lighter. But Harold Perkins, is great at rushing the passer. However, when you want him to do other stuff at linebacker, he really isn't that great at, especially at reading plays. And I think moving him to star is great, because not only is he a great edge rusher, he can still do all the great things that Harold Perkins could do, but also he's a great at pass coverage, right? He's actually not a bad pass coverage linebacker. So I think he could maybe have a very similar role to Harold Perkins, because he's an edge rusher. Edge rushers really just go off the edge and just attack the quarterback. So it'll be very interesting to see how Blake Baker uses him. And I know Blake Baker's defense likes to use a lot of versatility, so I think there's some ways you could use DeAnthony Lafayette. But DeAnthony Lafayette is a Tiger, for right now. Of course, still got to a National Signing Day. Nothing is set in stone. So pen is signed to paper. But DeAnthony Lafayette, one of the top prospects from the state of Florida, specifically out of the Orlando area at Lake Nona High School, has committed to LSU. It's just a huge recruiting day for LSU. And after yesterday, LSU now has three number one players. Three players that are the number one at the position. According to Hayes Fawcett, LSU now, like I said, three recruits ranked number one in their respective positions. Tristan Keys, number one wide receiver in the country. Lamar Brown, number one athlete in the country. Lamar Brown plays both defensive line and on the offensive line, but he will most likely be defensive line at the end of the day. And actually, I think he even told me that he prefers to play on the defensive line. And then you also have Richard Anderson, who is the number one defensive lineman in the country. So you basically signed 1A, 1B of the best two defensive linemen in the country, and you also signed Tristan Keys. And Tristan Keys looks like he is locked in with LSU at the moment. He hasn't announced that he shut down his commitment, but from talking to him in the past, it just looks more and more that he's an LSU Tiger. It just does. And just an awesome weekend for LSU recruiting.